What's a rule in society that everyone agrees is pointless, but we all still follow? Saying if you need anything, just let me know after a major event. After my grandmother died, I asked people to take her comforter to the cleaners, asked her neighbor to pick up her newspaper, asked someone else if they could research where to donate something she owned, and was told no by all three. I've run across this at almost every major event. Don't say it if you don't mean it. If you do mean it, be specific. I'm here if you need to talk. I have a truck if you need to haul things. I have a shower seat you can borrow. Stuff like that. It's common for people to say let me know if you need anything, but it doesn't always come through. After my grandma passed, I asked for small favors, but everyone turned me down. It gets frustrating when people offer help without really being there. If you genuinely want to help, just give specifics. Offer a ride, lend a hand, or anything tangible. It makes a difference in tough times. The pressure to attend and remain engaged in family gatherings for multiple hours without retreating from the group or just leaving when you've had enough. Lately I've decided I'm done caring whether it seems rude to seek solitude. I just don't have the energy to endure such prolonged social interaction. It's not their fault or anything, my entire extended family are all wonderful people, no exaggeration. It's simply that their baseline level of energy completely drains mine in about half an hour. I get that. Family gatherings can be exhausting. I used to feel obligated to stick around, no matter how drained I felt. Finally, I started taking short breaks or stepping outside for a bit. It wasn't about being rude, it was about recharging. People understood, and it honestly made the time I spent with them more enjoyable. Sometimes, you just need to prioritize your own energy. Not sure if this fits 100%, but I'll say it just in case, saying goodbye 4 times before hanging up. Okay, great talking to you. See you later. You too, always great. Okay, bye, cheers, haha later. This reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend. We were wrapping up a call, and it turned into a goodbye fest. Each time we thought we were done, another round of goodbyes happened. It was funny and a bit ridiculous, but it really showed how much we enjoyed talking. In the end, it felt like we were both just stalling to keep the chat going a little longer. Even if you're not going to walk fast through a crosswalk, you still have to do that pretend fast walk thing so the driver waiting for you to cross knows you know they're waiting for you. You make an apologetic face, and they give you a smile or a little wave and all is right with the world. Edit to add, so I guess this absolutely is not pointless. Yeah, I get that. It's like this little social dance we all do. You know when you're crossing and you can see the driver waiting. You kind of pick up the pace a bit, just to acknowledge them. It feels good when they nod or smile back. It's a simple moment, but it reminds you that little gestures matter. Makes the simple act of crossing the street feel more connected. This woman gave me crap on transit during rush hour for not giving up my seat for her. She wasn't old, injured, pregnant, and just wanted the seat as she said she was a woman, stated by her. I just laughed at her and put my headphones back on. That sounds like a pretty awkward situation. People can be really entitled sometimes. It's interesting how the rush hour brings out some strange behavior in folks. I can understand wanting a seat, but there are definitely boundaries. Not everyone has to give up their spot just because someone asks. Keeping calm and ignoring it was probably the best move in that moment. Using tongs at a buffet to stop the spread of COVID. I was at a conference and they had a tray of cupcakes with a sign saying please use tongs for hygiene reasons. I picked up a cupcake with my hand and a staff member came over and asked me to please use the tongs because of COVID. I said to him, so, instead of only touching the cupcake they're going to eat, you think it's better that all 250 people here touch the same pair of tongs before then putting the cupcake in their mouth with the fingers they just touched the communal tongs with? The idiot's reply, please sir, just use the tongs. It's funny how sometimes common sense takes a backseat. That moment at the buffet with the cupcakes really highlighted it. You'd think using tongs was the solution, but it felt a bit counterproductive with everyone touching the same ones. The staff member was just following rules, I get that. Still, it made for an awkward conversation. Just a little reminder of how sometimes policies don't make much sense in the real world. Emailing an interview to thank them for interviewing you. It's just so frustrating when 80% of the time, they ghost applicants, and 70% of the time, they don't provide any specific feedback. They're also not any better for being a prospective employer than I am for being a prospective employee. I get that. It's annoying to put yourself out there and then just go radio silent. I've had similar situations where I followed up, but it felt like shouting into a void. It's a two-way street, right? Employers should give some feedback. Makes it easier for everyone. Just part of the job hunt struggle, I guess. Keeps you on your toes, even if it is frustrating at times. Caring about other people's situations. Most of the kindness I see personally is not genuine, as people seek validation and/or praise out of it. Genuine kindness goes unnoticed, and the person usually doesn't care if someone knows about it either. You get judged for the lack of caring because the people judging you are jealous that you're getting away with not giving a shit. I get what you're saying. A lot of people act nice, but only for the attention. I've seen it too. Like when someone helps out, but they make sure everyone sees it. On the other hand, the real acts of kindness often happen quietly. Those people don't need the spotlight. And yeah, it can be frustrating when you see others pretending to care just so they can look good. Playing the national anthem before any sporting event. Even before the kneeling thing brought it more mainstream, I never got the point in the first place. I was shocked when I worked at a greyhound track and they played it. You really think the dogs cared? If at an arena event or similar, I'll be buying a snack when they play it. Not UN patriotic, I just don't see the point. I know if there was a coordinated effort to stop playing it that there would be initial blowback, but after a bit, would anyone still care? I get where you're coming from. The national anthem before sports can feel a bit forced, especially for events where it doesn't seem to matter, like a dog race. I've noticed people just chatting or getting snacks during it too. It's like, are we really paying attention or just doing it because it's tradition? It makes you wonder how many people would notice if it changed. We all know nobody's reading that the guy that prepares my taxes forwarded me an audio clip from a comedian about signing tax forms. You sign the forms your accountant tax preparer created saying, I have fully reviewed and understood all this incredibly complex paperwork. I hired a professional to prepare for me. You know how there are little sticky plastic arrows pointing to where you need to sign? The comedian was pointing out that if you truly understood the forms, you wouldn't need a plastic arrow telling you where to sign. Different example, a few years ago I managed to stick a 3-inch long splinter deep into my leg and I couldn't get it out. I went to an emergency room and they had me sign an initial like 10 pages of legalize. I was in a lot of pain. It wasn't like that was fair for me to review the contract at that moment. I signed as fast as humanly possible so they would remove the splinter, LOL. I always wondered if in a court case I could claim I signed under duress. I had no complaints, they removed the splinter and my insurance covered it. I get that. Tax forms are confusing and nobody actually reads them. When I had to sign a bunch of papers at the hospital, I was in pain too. Just wanted to get it over with. Who really goes through all that legal stuff? Sometimes you just have to trust the professionals, even if it feels like a formality. It's crazy how we navigate those moments without really understanding what we're signing. My wife and I went to Belize to get married. We were only going to invite our parents. Her dad insisted on bringing his young children from his new wife. Belize would be both dangerous for the kids and we would be stuck babysitting them, we always were. We uninvited everyone and got married on our own. Sometimes you just have to go your own way. It sounds like a tough decision with family, but it's your wedding day. Focusing on what you both wanted instead of the expectations was probably worth it. Those moments matter more than accommodating everyone. For our wedding, we were quite limited on space, and so we sat down and said, okay, who do we actually want there? And what's an objective cutoff we can use to determine who's in and not? And landed on A, having an interest in the both of us besides the yearly family dinner, and B, having actually met the both of us, with a couple of exceptions. And so she invited her warm, welcoming relatives who actually care and deserved it. I invited only a few family members because the rest are wholly uninterested, and then we didn't invite all the obscure uncles and aunts and SOS we'd never met, etc. Pretty lenient on the SO part if people asked, because it was in the middle of nowhere and we didn't want anyone to be totally alone. And all that suddenly open space was used for lots of our mutual friends and other people we didn't want to be without on our special day. There was a whole ordeal for a while and some offended distant cousins, but it was the best decision I've made in a long time. The day was perfect, and none of the not invited people were missed. I strongly recommend it to anyone who wants to do the same and for whom that feels at all like a possibility. They've all forgotten it now a few years later anyway. Yeah, planning a wedding can be tricky with guests. We did something similar with our list. Focused on folks who actually mattered to us. Cut out the distant relatives and those who never really cared. It felt right. The vibe was good, and we could enjoy our day with real friends. Some were upset, but honestly, it was worth it. In the end, it was our day, and that's what counted. My mom has 7 siblings and my dad has 4. Most of them are married with children, and now my cousins are starting to have children. The family is big. I don't care for most of them. I just won't have a wedding, seems like a hassle. Yeah, big families can be overwhelming. I get how you feel about not wanting a wedding. Sometimes it's just too much to deal with, especially when you don't have a close connection with everyone. It's easier to keep things simple. A small gathering can be just as meaningful without all the stress. My wife and I got married in Las Vegas. We had 10 in-person guests, all immediate family, but the ceremony was done on a live stream, so as many people as wanted to could see us get married in real time. Highly recommend it. The whole affair cost about $4,000 in 2019, and made for a wonderful long weekend with the people we most cared about. Everyone else got to feel like a part of it, but didn't have to take time off, fly out, etc. That sounds like a cool way to do a wedding. Keeping it simple and making it accessible for everyone is smart. It must have been nice sharing that moment with family and friends, even if they couldn't be there in person. Plus, a long weekend in Vegas is a win. Sounds like the right balance between special and practical. I read somewhere that an American moved to Europe, Sweden or Denmark, I think, and kept saying this. Eventually his wife has to tell him to stop it because when they say that they mean IT and try to make plans. That kind of reminds me of a friend who did something similar when he moved to another country. He kept saying let's grab coffee sometime, thinking it was casual. But people there actually expected him to set a date. His friends would call him out on it, and he finally realized he needed to be more specific. It was funny watching him adjust to the cultural differences. Those ropes are there as a passive anti-robbery device. Source: was robbed multiple times while working as a teller. After third incident, bank executives and loss prevention proposed velvet ropes in front of the tellers. It makes it more difficult to get to a teller and get out. I remember when a friend worked as a bank teller. He told me about the time they got those velvet ropes installed after a series of robberies. It's wild to think they had to implement something so physical just to keep things safe. You never really think about those small details, but they can make a difference in how secure a place feels. Just goes to show how times can change. A friend of mine said, "Don't offer, just do. Send them a gift card for dinner or something to help them out." The reason why is that if someone is having a rough time, now the onus is on them to think of something for you to do. Give them one less thing to think about, not one more. That makes sense. When someone's struggling, the last thing they need is more pressure. A simple gift like a dinner card takes a load off. It's a way to show you care without adding to their stress. I've seen it help friends before. Sometimes, just taking action speaks louder than words. It's about being there for someone in a way that feels easy for them. I'm sorry that happened to you. I have used the phrase, "If there's anything I can do, please let me know," many times, and I meant it each and every times. If I had received a call to go pick up toothpaste, I'd be out the door. Not everyone just says the phrase, some of us actually do mean it. Sounds like you've got a solid friend group. It's nice when people are genuine about helping out. I've been in similar situations where a simple gesture made a difference. One time, I had a friend really come through when I just needed someone to grab groceries for me. It's those small acts that show who's really there for you. Makes a difference, for sure. I feel this in my bones. I had cancer, and so many people offered to come over. I'm like, hell no. I don't want to have to clean and entertain you. All I wanted was for people to chat with me over the phone or on Messenger. No, that's way too difficult. I can relate to that. When I was going through a tough time, I didn't want visitors either. It's exhausting to think about hosting someone when you're dealing with something heavy. Sometimes, it's just easier to connect through messages or calls. It feels more personal without the pressure of having to entertain. Just having someone check in is enough. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.